The film's main character is Yuki, a struggling independent contractor. One day, as he is looking for work desperately, Anna, an old friend, approaches him. She informs him of a fantastic chance to make $1 million in a week. They choose to proceed with the admissions process despite the announcement's dubious appearance in order to see where it goes. Yuki and Anna are in a car with a large group of other applicants for the position. They are brought to a remote structure that resembles a bunker. In search of an answer, they enter the structure, but discover it to be absolutely empty. A computerized voice informs them that they would be cohabitating for the following week while being heavily filmed and going without phones and laptops. All they have to do is make it through the week and collect the $1 million reward at the end. None of the participants fully comprehends the assignment, yet they all agree to participate. They have one more opportunity to leave after the final pronouncement, but none does. Day 1 begins when they enter a dining hall and the door locks behind them. A timer that displays how long the participants must remain in the residence is mounted on an adjacent wall. The dolls put on the table to symbolize the participants' 10 numbers are not missed by the participants. They should introduce themselves, says a man called Osako, so they may get to know one another better. He turns out to be a doctor who has also brought his wife Wakana in order for the two of them to win twice as much money. The next person is Maki, a college student who is likewise looking for money. Ando is a strange drunkard who avoids conversation, while Fuchi is the oldest lady in the group. Everyone introduces themselves, with the exception of Maiza, a stunning girl, and Iwai, a young man. Hiro finally introduces himself. He is the one who starts conversations and keeps them going. One of the dolls makes a robotic noise that interrupts their chat. The robot that is connected to the ceiling and is in charge of penalizing rule breakers is introduced to the attendees. Everyone will be allotted a room based on their assigned number, however nobody is permitted to leave their room after 10 p.m. If the robot discovers someone breaking the rules, they will be removed. The group asks what elimination means, but no one can explain it. The second rule is that everyone in the home should cooperate to find the perpetrator of a crime. One investigator will identify the suspect they believe to be the culprit. The accused will then be declared innocent once everyone has cast their votes. If they make it to the finish, the detective who cracks the case will receive a bonus. The game will finish. After hearing the last rule, the gang becomes tense, but Yuki soothes them. He asserts that if they coexist peacefully, no one will suffer damage and they will all receive the winnings. Later, when the elderly woman and Maiza are finishing the dishes, the chatty hero approaches them and offers a conspiracy notion. He asks elderly woman whether she is serial murderer and says he remembers her from TV. The elderly woman giggles uncomfortably, but Maiza is suspicious because of the remark. Osako made up his medical identity somewhere else to gain people's trust. He and his wife Wakana are discussing their brilliant scheme when Hiro approaches them, advancing another theory that Iwai is a serial murderer. He is obviously trying to create drama by making people wary of one another, but it is still unclear what his true agenda is. Ando discovers bloodstains on the wall in the second hallway. He assumes that another group has already played the game they are playing. To avoid being discovered by the robot, everyone enters their rooms as the clock strikes 10. By his bed is a chest, which Yuki discovers and opens out of curiosity. A flaming poker and a message instructing him to use it to murder someone are both inside. Yuki covers her chest quickly and falls asleep in fear. He is awakened by Anna the following morning, who informs him that each room has a chest with the same message but a different weapon. Everyone must exercise caution since some contenders could decide to use their weapons. Everyone is suddenly startled by a scream coming from the passageways. It turns out that Hiro was shot 5 times in the body by someone using a gun. Except for Iwai, who chuckles to himself and leads the others to believe he is the perpetrator, everyone is stunned. Yuki, who is terrified, tries to flee, but the sole door leading outside is securely closed. Now that they know one of them is the murderer, the gang must find out who he or she is. The 8 victims who are set to be eliminated are represented by 8 coffins in the chamber where Hiro's body is abruptly carried by the guard. The robot then requests that everyone begin the inquiry before throwing Hiro into one of the coffins. If the perpetrator is apprehended, the reward money will be doubled for the detective, the offender, and the relatives of the deceased person. Iwai is said to have killed Hiro because Osako believed he was a serial murderer. He chuckled when he saw the dead body, which further fuels the group's suspicion. Yuki decides to stand with Iwai and orders everyone to display their weapons before making accusations. Anyone with a gun is presumed to be the perpetrator. The strategy seems good, but the other members of the group refuse to follow along since doing so would put them in risk because the assailant would target the person with the least lethal weapon. Iwai ultimately receives the majority vote and is labeled a criminal. He is taken away by the guard robot and placed in the cell next to the coffin chamber. When Yuki gets back to his room, he opens his chest once more and discovers a pistol inside. To put the responsibility for the murder on Yuki, the murderer has switched out his weapon for a fire poker. The party then chooses to look into Iwai's weapon out of curiosity and discovers it to be empty. They infer that this proves the murderer is still among them. Later, Yuki runs into Anna in the kitchen and informs her about the gun while adamantly claiming that the true murderer is using him as a scapegoat. Anna respects him and believes what he says to be true. Yuki discovers the elderly woman in Anna's room looking through her belongings as he makes his way to the room. She believes Anna is the murderer but discovers there is no gun in her chest. Yuki checks the revolver once again at night and discovers that no bullets are missing. He continuously counts them in confusion before concluding that Hiro was not slain by this weapon. The elderly woman chooses to play detective at the same time, searching the house for the murderer as something overtakes her. She takes a few steps toward the chamber before a nail pierces her forehead and kills her. We can clearly see that Maisa is the murderer. When the body is discovered the next day, Anna is held entirely responsible because everyone was aware that the elderly woman thought she was the killer. Even though Anna claims she is innocent, they believe it was a case of retaliation murder. Yuki joins her, giving Osako the impression that he is part of the scheme. He pulls out a knife and begs everyone to keep their distance so that the offender can be punished. Ando tries to defuse the situation but is then blamed for the murder. When prodded, he admits that his son left the house 6 months ago, claiming to have found a job that pays well. Ando made the decision to look into this position himself because he never made it back home. He believes that his son and those who were with him perished as a result of their opposition to one another. His worries are acknowledged by the other members of the group, and the argument ends naturally. Ando visits Yuki's room after everyone has gone to bed and explains that he has discovered a means to stop any further fatalities. He has calculated that the robot only rotates counterclockwise and is stationary for 10 minutes prior to each round. They may therefore freely traverse the home without worrying about being discovered if they always follow the robot. In order to remain safe, the gang agrees to set up nightly pairs of 2 watchmen. The first shift is taken by Anna and Yuki, and while they are working, Anna admits she has grown to adore Yuki. They are too preoccupied expressing their love to notice the robot turning counterclockwise. They have only a few seconds left to hide before the robot catches them. After a few hours, Wakana and Maisa take over as the watchdogs. Wakana is running late, so Yuki chooses to stay and assist Maisa. Wakana and Osako are having fun together in the room packed with coffins. Wakana rushes outdoors to assist after remembering that she should team up with Maisa. When Osako is alone himself, the roof trembles and knocks him to the ground. The news of his passing is announced to everyone the next morning. The ceiling starts to shift once more, prompting the gang to flee the space. They observe the college student outside holding a remote control for the ceiling. He claims to have only been testing the remote after finding it on the ground. But he is aware that no one else in the room shares his convictions. He pulls out his crossbow in a fit of rage, threatening to murder everyone who places the blame on him. Everyone retreats except Wakana, who is determined to get revenge for her husband's murder. She uses a war axe to attack the man before doing the unimaginable to herself. There are now just 4 survivors after 3 persons pass away in quick succession. The number of streamers viewing them is then identified as the weird collection of numbers on the wall. Yuki is enraged that millions of spectators are watching them perish for amusement while he is unable to stop it. Maisa and Anna are preparing tea for everyone later in the evening. Maisa prepares a narcotic in the kettle and serves it to the rest of the group when no one is watching. She reveals that she has come to raise money for her ailing kid back home's medical expenses. She murdered the elderly woman for this identical purpose, and she will kill anybody else for money. Yuki visits Maisa's room at night to converse, but all of a sudden his hands stop moving, and he collapses to the floor. Maisa informs him that she has used a muscle relaxant to drug both him and the other members of the gang. Yuki manages to shove her away and escape as she prepares to murder him. The robot spots them in the halls and orders them to return to their rooms right away. Yuki enters a neighboring room just as it starts shooting, but Maisa is murdered in the confusion. The 3 remaining survivors emerge from their rooms the next morning after the drug's effects have worn off. They note how Maisa's dying scene resembles Hiro's death quite a bit. As a result, Yuki comes to the realization that the first death was a plot to incite conflict among the participants. Hiro was a spy who was placed among the players to instigate conflict amongst them. In order for his family to receive his portion of the money, he offered to pass away. If the group had resolved to cooperate rather than compete from the start, no one would have perished. Yuki has won twice as much money for solving Hiro's case, the robot informs. Ando then follows Yuki in doing the same with his screwdriver as they both pull their weapons out and set them down on the table. They do this to demonstrate their entire faith in one another, but Anna declines to take part. Day 6 begins with Yuki discovering Ando with his rifle. Nobody gives it any thought since the man instantly keeps it out of sight. The game's last day will then occur. In a happy attitude, Yuki leaves his room only to discover that the weapons are gone. He rushes to the chamber of Ando and Anna but no one is there. While searching for them, he sees the jail door is wide open, indicating that Iwai has escaped and is now out for vengeance. Additionally, he discovers Ando's body inside the casket and goes insane. Using this chance, Iwai puts Yuki in a chokehold. It comes out that he killed Osako since she had put him in jail, using the remote control that moves the ceiling as his weapon. Later, when the college student discovered the remote that Iwai had tossed outdoors, he was held accountable. Surprisingly, Iwai swears he didn't kill Ando and doesn't have the gun. Yuki and Iwai battle it out for the screwdriver with barely 4 minutes left in the game. Iwai triumphs and is ready to murder Yuki when Anna saves him by firing the gun. Yuki remembers that Ando changed the pistol last morning and stops her just as she is ready to fire. Iwai eventually gets the pistol during the scuffle. He opens fire, and the ensuing explosion kills him. Yuki and Anna are finally recognized as the survivors. When the door opens, a guy presents Yuki with his winning money. Anna is left without any money, yet she doesn't appear upset about it. Finally, she admits that, like Hiro, she is a player in the game. She was the one who shot Yuki since it was her responsibility to set the contestants against one another. She was also the one who opened the cage to let Iwai free, but when it came to Yuki's life, she couldn't stand by and watch him suffer. Yuki is told these facts, and Anna just drives off. In the climactic finale, Ando emerges from the structure. He admits that he played dead so that no one would try to murder him on the last day. Yuki tosses the bag of money as they return to the city because she doesn't want to be associated with the evil game in any way.